Welcome back to another episode of What About Dad? My name's Adair, and with the help of my friend Jen, we'll be going over Wynonna Earp episode 208, No Future in the Past. So sit back, relax, and ask yourself, hey, what about Dad? Alrighty, so how'd you like this episode, Jen?
Well, I really thought that we learned a lot about Waverly in this episode. The whole episode, the first scene we get in the cold open is Wynonna and Waverly walking along the snow, the pond, and Waverly's recounting, a story about her past and how she fell into some ice water and Willow wouldn't save her. Her sister, the older sister, wouldn't save her. And it's really kind of a sad story because you realize that you find out that Waverly has always had this mindset that she was kind of the forgotten child. And you learn something about the Earp sisters and that dynamic. And it's just such a sad story. And I think one of my favorite parts is when Wynonna asks, who pulled you out of the ice? And then Waverly just turns to her and she's like, you did. And it's very tender and it's emotionally vulnerable, and the actor just does a really great job of bringing us into this episode. Quite a way to join the episode, wouldn't you say? Since we've no hearts coming out, maybe emotional ones.
Well, no, I actually really enjoyed the beginning of this episode. I thought that it was really cool that I really liked how
What did you think of it?
Well, I'm trying to put the words together because I think that Waverly was really good. This great backstory shows that they didn't care about her birthday, grades, any of that stuff. It's interesting that Wynonna remembers bringing her home from the hospital. It's interesting that Wynonna doesn't remember saving her life. She can remember bringing her to the hospital, but she can't remember saving her life. I think that's really interesting. And why does Waverly think that she saved her life? So, because the whole timeline thing and Vision Quest and blah, blah, blah. Does that alter her memory? That's why she thinks Wynonna saved her? Or, is it something else? So that was an answer I didn't really understand. That didn't get answered this time around. But I think it'd be something to look into later.
I thought Waverly said it was Wynonna, but I thought that was a lie. I got a sense that she was lying right there.
No, I definitely think she was telling the truth because she looked at Wynonna when she said, who saved you? You did. Duh. And so it was very yeah, of course. You saved me. That's you. As opposed to you did. It wasn't one of those. Because what would you have to lie about that for?
I thought she was covering up. I thought it was Bobo.
Oh, it was Bobo. But I don't think Wynonna or Waverly knew it was Bobo. Wynonna now knows it's Bobo because she realizes that she's the one who pretty much saves Waverly's life. In the grand scheme of things, Wynonna is the one who saves Waverly's life in the end because she tells Bobo that his guardian angel is Waverly. So he's always going to protect Waverly. So that just happened to be a full circle thing where Waverly says it. In her mind, I think she thinks it's real. And then Wynonna's like, what? And then when she changes history or whatever it is, it actually comes to fruition. And I think that's fascinating, but I want to know why Wynonna doesn't remember that. Besides the fact that Waverly might be lying, which I don't think she is, but, why doesn't Wynonna remember that? I think that's weird. Anyways, moving on.
Juan Carlo.
Carlo.
We learned about this guy in this episode. When I first saw him earlier in this season, I had no idea how he was going to play any part into this larger overarching storyline. This was a huge episode for him. What we learned was that he contributed to putting the sisters into the box that was held by the Black Badge that later was broken, and that his storyline is intertwined with these seals and with the past. So I was like, that was a big aha moment for me at the very beginning of the episode, and I was really happy that it came so early because it was a part of the cold open, and it came very early, and it clarified a lot of questions I've had about this character, for a while. Although, I still wonder what his involvement is with the fire department, how he got involved with them, why he's involved with them.
Well, the thing is, the fire department's all about the seals and saving Purgatory, so he's kind of, once again, he's a watcher. So he's going to be watching what they're doing, trying to keep all the tabs on who's good, who's bad, so that he knows. That's kind of his thing. Oracle in the way. I like the fact that in the beginning, we see him in season 1, he's talking to Wynonna, and that's where I keep bringing up, Purgatory is meant to capture people and to protect some other things. I think that is fascinating that we see he was a priest, so he was a man of the cloth. He was someone who was there to help originally, and he caught these bad women. He caught the, but he was also colluding with a witch, which was Constance, and dealing with gunslingers, which was Bobo and Wyatt, and this whole mess. The fact that he gave up blood and gave up his treating of death to keep these seals is really important to me in that storyline. And I find it fascinating that, he's this figure, this thing, but it's like, I can watch, but I can't help. But I like the fact that when he knew he was going to die, he was like, well, all bets are off now, so Wynonna, here's your answers. Go get them. I wasn't supposed to tell you, but I can care less about the consequences, seeing as I'm going to face them anyways. So go and get the answers. I thought that was great. I actually really like this character because of his mystery, and because I like characters who you're like, what the... Why are you here? Who are you? I mean, you're telling us all the things that we need to know, but why? Where'd you come from? I love it.
Every time I see Juan Carlo, I try and remember what else I've seen him in. I feel like I've seen the actor in other things, so many other things.
Well, in a weird way, he also reminds me of I don't know his full name, but it's Vern, and it was the guy who used to do the auto commercials / Vern Goes to Summer Camp. He had a lot of campy movies in the 90s where he wore the vest. And he would talk like this, what about, So he kind of, for some reason, reminds me of that.
I think I saw him in a war movie before, so yeah. I was really surprised to see this actor. I'm going to try and look up what else he's been in, because it's just been, bothering me every time I see him. But anyways, so we also got,
the widows biting him and dealing with him. I like the idea of surprise, motherfucker, it came up behind him, and he's like, crap, I thought we got rid of you, which you caught the guy who knows everything by surprise. I think that's really kind of interesting.
Right. And then we're the next thing we see in this episode is that one of the subplots, and I want to kind of address the subplot before we get into the heavier things, was we see Rosita returning for the first time in many episodes. And so what my first thought was that this character was introduced this season, and that she's been something of this almost interchangeable character between her and Jeremy. I mentioned this, and we haven't seen her in a while. Last time we saw her, she was cooking up a cure for Doc, or dolls, see? And now we see her, and she's got a scene with Doc, and in the scene they kind of establish the fact that she's in a relationship with Doc. And we knew that they were kind of friends with benefits, but she calls him, it's in this episode, he's called her boyfriend. And for me, I felt kind of like this was big news. This was shocking news, because in the last episode we had Doc dealing with the fallout of his emotions and the relationship he has with Wynonna. So in this very next episode, we have Doc dating somebody formally, and that kind of threw me off. And so what did you think about that?
I mean, I wasn't super thrown off, because they've been kind of plotting. I mean, when the whole Sandman episode happened, they were caught naked together, I saw the flirting happening when they had the chemistry going on, not just emotionally, but they actually were doing the chemistry for dolls. I saw that happening. I knew that's also why Wynonna was jealous, because she met another female who was attractive, that Dolls was attracted to. They were setting it up enough. I do agree that Rosita coming back it's not too late. I'm gonna like this character, and I know that she's gonna have more to offer. It just feels like we set so much time up setting up Jeremy into the group, and I feel like we now have to start over again with Rosita. I kind of wish they would have come up at the same time, so that we can get to know them kind of together and separate, whatever. But now it's just it's a little too, not late, but they definitely put Jeremy first, and now we're getting to Rosita, which feels like we're dragging.
Right.
You
They
know, and we only have-
prioritized Jeremy a lot, right? And now her story is taking the center.
Yeah, well, sort of. And we only have 4 episodes left until the season's over. And I'm like, I don't like feeling like we are now just kind of getting around to her, which is a bummer. But
Which is
I know that it's
how
gonna
I
work.
feel. I felt that way about her. I felt like
Yeah.
I absolutely felt it took way too long to bring her back into the storyline and give her something more prevalent to do than could Akir. And in bringing her in as a love interest for Doc, I felt like it was happening too late in the season, and I felt like I just it was a lot for me to swallow, and I felt like it was a little too off screen. I felt like I needed a scene between Rosita and Doc's, just like one more scene to establish that they'd gone from hooking up to like, oh hey, we were gonna get a beer together, and that's gonna be like a date, casual date.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that there is the thing too about like how she goes, oh, if I mean anything to you, mind you, once again, everything is off camera, guys. We know that Doc knew Rosita before he knew Wynonna, because he already had a repose with Rosita. That's how they met. He's like, I can protect you. There's already a history there that we don't know about. That's why I have a feeling we're going to learn about it and learn where it came from. So it feels like it's very out of nowhere for us, but they probably have already dated. They've probably already gone down this road before, and it's something new or something different, or it's changed this time. So, yes, I feel like we're kind of at a disadvantage of knowing who she is, but at the same time, I think we're going to learn.
Well, they got a season 3. We'll probably get some backstory. I just wish that we had a few more scenes to establish her, because it felt like it'd been a while since we saw her.
As far as like Rosita too, because this is really quick in the episode, guys, so we might as well just address it now, because it wasn't part of the huge main plot. The whole baby shower and way hot and things like that. For me, I was like, okay, well, there's no other real females in the place, and nobody was really thinking of this. So for Rosita to be like, baby shower, it was a huge, drastic attempt to get to know Earps as Doc had asked her to. So it's like one way to do it, booze, baby shower, party, fine. Okay, I get it. She really is the only female who isn't really doing much, so I get why she's the one doing it. As far as Nicole and Waverly, I thought it was adorable. They're a little pool playing, very Sanders-esque. And then the thing with the whole DNA. All right, let's just get it out the way and address it. Nicole done fuck. I think we address it because it's not really a big thing, but I mean it's huge. But
it is a big thing.
But it also didn't take up all the episode. So Nicole fucked up. I'm a little upset at her moral character, and I don't know if this is a writing thing. I don't know if it's going to come back later, but Jen and I both kind of noticed something. She doesn't lie to Waverly about a strip club, or she tries not to lie, and then Wynonna takes the phone about a strip club. She's been very much about consent and asking and blah blah blah. She even gave the paperwork that Waverly turned in to her so that she can find out her past. So it's real weird out of nowhere that she wants to hide or protect Waverly from the truth now that she's gotten it. A, don't look at people's mail. B, she should have been like, hey babe, let's look at this together. It's going to be big, good or bad. I'm here for you. Like she said before she handed her the paper. No matter what happens, as long as you want me, I'm on your side in this journey. And then she went off and did something completely different, which shows that she wasn't on her side. I don't know. As we were saying, Jen and I hate the trope of, in the name of love, we've done something stupid. Like, especially for Nicole, the way we've written it, it kind of didn't make any sense that she lied about this giant thing,
It's this trope that you see a lot in television. Because I love you, I'm going to protect you from the truth. And they used it with Nicole, and it really brings up a question, an ethical question about Nicole. What it tells us what her character will do in terms of lying. She'll lie for love, she'll lie to protect, but she won't lie. She can't lie when it comes to a larger truth, like her going out with Wynonna and finding out the actual baby daddy. And I think that this was unfortunate for her, because of all the choices you can make with Nicole, she has so much going on this season, so many interesting things that they've written for her, I think this is actually the least interesting thing. And it seems to be like where they're going with in terms of arc, which is to pull apart Wayhot. The consequence of Waverly finding out her paternal DNA, where she's from, her heritage, is going to be at the expense of her relationship. And that we've seen a lot in television. And honestly, I kind of want to just bring up a real quick parallel. You know, we cover Supergirl, and we see this all the time in the male characters. You know, lying to protect their daughters, the Sandvers, Alex. I'm gonna lie so you'll be protected. And it doesn't really work there, and I didn't really feel like it was working here either.
And I think, Nicole also noticed it didn't work there because she ended up crying. But I also found it interesting that this is kind of a lead up. The one thing Emily's really good at is doing a good lead up of something that's going to happen in the future. I think this is a seed planting. Yes, they're going to get upset. They're going to probably have an argument again, whatever. We've already seen that, so it probably won't last as long, but it'll be in a different form. But I was telling Jen that I noticed that Waverly seemed to have, really quickly caught on to a nickname for Rosita. Rosita was calling her Waves, which made Nicole a little jealous because that's Nicole's
picking up on the subtext.
Yeah, Nicole's pet name. Not just me. There are a lot of other people who saw the same thing I did. Nicole getting jealous, and that might be a thing. I mean, mind you, we don't know who or what Rosita is as far as like her sexuality, but there might be a way of Waverly having a crush on Rosita in a weird way, or like just because she wants to get away from whatever Nicole did. There might be a chance that she tries to stray or whatever, do her thing out of anger or like being upset, which I think is going to be kind of an interesting plot point.
That's fascinating.
Well, the fact that they were setting it up that Nicole's jealous of like Rosita even calling her Waves, like that was weird to me. Like I was like, oh, that's deliberate. Okay, fine. So
it was deliberate jealousy. I agree with you entirely.
And so I'm like, okay, where's this going? What's going on? Wave looking certain way. It hit my bell and was like, something's gonna happen here.
Adair, since you called it, what is your ship name for for it? Since you called it, you can name it.
Well,
hashtag get it ready. Cue it up.
Oh, I have two options. It's gonna either be Rosalie. It's gonna be either Rosalie.
How Shakespearean of you.
I know. Or it's gonna be Wayvita.
Ooh, I like this second
hashtag
one.
Wayvita.
Anytime you have the Ita in there, gives it some spice.
Wayvita.
I like
hashtag
it. It's like something
Rosalie
I would order at Taco
or
Bell.
hashtag Wayvita. Yes. Sounds like a Mountain Dew drink. That's really what it is.
Hashtag Wayvita.
Buy the new Wayvita now.
The thing is, like, I like Wayhot, and I'm never gonna not like that pairing.
Oh yeah, no.
But I like a good name, and you, my dear, have come up with a good name.
Well,
tonight.
I like a good name ship, but also it's not. I don't think it's gonna be a ship or anything. But I think
Could
it is
be,
very
I mean.
well, guys. It is very valid in life that if you break up or get upset at somebody, people tend to rebound or try to go with somebody else for a minute. Wave might have a crush on this person who she thought she hated, but then not. It's all part of a realistic relationship, which is where Wayhot is. So
how I'm with it, and how complicated that's going to make things weird between like Doc and Waverly, just for the sheer comedy of those kinds of scenes.
Oh, exactly.
And I'm with it because Waverly recently came into her sexuality as being a spectrum, and you really, I love to see Wayhot Endgame, but I would love to see Waverly just explore that aspect of herself. Anyways, and I think Emily is someone who's gonna be like, yeah, let's do that. Anyways,
all right, moving on from that plot point, we talked about it.
Okay,
the Wayhot, it was what it was. Let's go back now and talk about Wynonna.
We're gonna go back. You ready for it? Back to the Future. Oh no, just kidding. Back to the Future Part 2, where they go to the past.
Oh, Jesus.
I don't know what episode that was, but they did.
She was so close to having a good segue.
I was. I burnt it.
Next
I
time.
burnt the bridge.
Next
Okay.
time.
Well, they go... Can I segue us? Okay. So, Wynonna meets up with Juan Carlo after punching him in the face, which I really love that detail. when you take Wynonna, you don't just take her. You get a punch.
But
in the
no,
face.
he didn't take her. She jumped in his car, punched him in the face, and said, "Take me somewhere."
It's like, fuck you. I'm
So
still
she
kind
like
of a
kidnapped
mess.
herself.
She did. She kidnapped herself. That's a good way to put it. Self-kidnapped. She finds herself, and can I just say, I didn't mention this in our recap, but I really felt this way. Juan Carlo takes her to this like weird little steeple church, and it really kind of reminded me of Westworld. You know, like the steeple church in Westworld when they go back to flashbacks.
Yeah.
And he sends her like on this like shamanesque vision quest, you know, and I really felt like you mentioned this earlier, and I'm gonna reiterate it on the cast, that this could have been 2 episodes. You know, you had all these subplots, and then you had this vision quest, which was so meaty. It was so full of plot that we almost needed it to be divided in 2 episodes. And so we get a recap. We go back in time, and one of the things is what we get is like an origin story about Wyatt Earp and the familial history, and there's so much here to just take apart and dissect. It was incredible. What did you think?
Okay, so before they went back time, the one thing I was telling Jen earlier is that there feels like there is a theme about the word choice in this episode. Choices, making choices, sticking with a decision. And I think it was very prevalent in all the characters. Whether it be Rosita choosing and make a decision to become friends with the Earp sisters. Nicole deciding to keep the information from Waverly. Waverly deciding to actually go and find out who she is. Wynonna, about the baby in the doctor's office, you know, choosing not to see her, sonogram, or maybe making the decision to give the baby up for adoption, like having that option and having that choice. You know, Doc, he wasn't really as prevalent, but I mean, like, making the choice to keep his mortality and being kind of selfish in that regard and arrogant. He chose that. He decided that that's where he was. Bobo choosing to go to hell for Earp, for Wyatt, and all the choices. It was just a huge thing of choices and decisions in this episode. You know, Wynonna didn't have to say Waverly's name at the end. She chose that. She planned. She made that decision and stuck with it. You know, and so this Back to the Future episode was really cool in the idea of watching people make past choices that affect the future. You know, and it really kind of keeps us reminding ourselves that things that we do today are gonna affect things later in life. You know, so it's like you can't make wrong. You know, try not to make wrong choices in the present. Be very present. Be very cognizant of the fact that things are going to change and be affected. And I think that's really cool about this episode. Jen.
Okay, yeah. So I want to talk about the past. I want to talk about the story of Wyatt Earp, which something to me I spoke to you about, and this was something that I picked up on. Now, there was so much information here that you almost had to go back, rewatch it again to kind of pick up all the meat in this storyline. But what you really had is, in the past, you had a triangle. You had a original Wyatt Earp who started the curse, who was the source of the curse. And in that original triangle, you have Doc and you have Bobo. And what I thought was interesting was that Bobo loved Wyatt Earp. Like, that's what I got from this. It wasn't maybe sexual, maybe it was, I don't know. But it was kind of like a purest love. Wyatt Earp and loved Doc. And one of the things I said to you, Adair, off cast, was that this story really kind of Wyatt Earp, the legend of Wyatt Earp, kind of reminds me of King Arthur, where you have this one guy, and then you have all this gang of guys who are like sworn allegiance to them. And of the knights, you have the most pure, the most beautiful. You have the Lancelot, and that archetype really reminds me of Doc. And then you have Bobo's character, who's fascinating because he has such a love for Wyatt Earp, and it's so pure that he takes a bullet for him, and he really goes to hell for him. And so, but in the end, Wyatt Earp, the original Earp, doesn't choose Bobo and doesn't realize his love, and he chooses Doc over Wyatt. And I might be reading a lot into this, but I also think the subtext is there. It's a triangle, and now you have this modern story, and there's a triangle there. You have Wynonna Earp, you have Doc, and you have Dolls. There's a lot of parallels between Dolls and Bobo, and what they're willing to do for this central Arthurian Wynonna Earp, Wyatt Earp character. You know, you have this one character who is the source of love for these two sub-characters. And I thought that was fascinating, because when you look at what Bobo does, which is go to extremes, goes to hell for his love, then you look at Dolls. And you have to look at the moment Wynonna goes missing and how desperate he is to find her and everything he's willing to sacrifice for her. So I just definitely think that a story that was told is being retold, and this time, instead of Bobo, you have Dolls in that slot, in that playing that part. So that was something I picked up. I thought it was great.
And I think it'd be really interesting, especially in season 3, to see possible evil Dolls, because at the end of the day, Bobo was a good man who didn't choose to go to hell. He was thinking that he was saving his friend by standing in front of this bullet, and then this curse, you know, he got killed by Peacemaker ultimately. You know, so he never even... It wasn't even like he was knowing that Peacemaker was going to do that and then he made the choice. No, he didn't know. And then the only reason why he chose to go to hell is because at that moment he also wanted revenge on Doc. And he was upset. He had a human error in that moment. He even says it. He's like, I made a mistake. It was my fault, you know, for leaving leaving Doc. I think Dolls could have that same thing. He already has a revenant inside of him. That whole fire thing, that her gun lights up anytime it shows up. The fact that he can call in his beast mode, as I call it, is kind of fascinating. It's like, what lengths will he go to save somebody using that beast mode? The thing is, when he was in this episode on the ground, cringing in pain, writhing in pain, is because, you know, of the fire. It's hot inside of him, you know, and it hurts him to do that. So it'll be interesting to see.
There's a piece of hell in him, you know?
Mm-hmm. And it'll be interesting to see how that kind of plays out, you know?
Well, if history repeats itself, then Bobo didn't win, so Dolls might not win, and that's the truth.
And
the true story might be about the love between... The truest story might be about the love between Wyatt Earp and Doc and Wynonna. It's retelling itself. What's happened before will happen again. And, you know, if you think about Peacemaker, going back to this idea of Arthurian legend, it's almost like Excalibur, you know, a thing of myth with supernatural abilities that ensures you win. And I think it's just like that's actually the meat and potatoes of this whole story.
Jeremy's Merlin, and
Waverly's Kitty McGrath. There it is.
Magana.
And segue.
Yeah, exactly. And now we're doing a Merlin recap. No, it's good.
Well, part of this, just one more thing, and I really wanted to... I talked to you about this. One of the things they brought up, which I think is great, is historically Doc, the character, really did die of tuberculosis. So you have him in this past suffering from the same fate as the actual person from history. And the thing keeping him alive is this magic ring, you know? And I think the highest stakes scene in the whole episode is the scene between Bobo and Doc, when you got one guy, Doc, in a well, and you have Bobo outside of the well, literally being like, throw me this ring, I'll get you out of this dark, terrible, lonely place. And Doc is so afraid of his own mortality. It shows that, you know, in every great tragic story, you have a tragic figure, and the figure, Odysseus, suffered from hubris. Doc also suffers from hubris. He suffers from a vanity and a fear of losing his life, that he can't give up his ring and save himself. He has to keep this ring. So Doc damns himself, and Bobo damns himself. So it's really a scene about two men who don't want to die, but inadvertently cause their own demise. It's a very powerful scene, and I thought it needed more time.
Also, I think it'd be kind of interesting, too, if you're going with the whole tribe, you know, parallel, whatever. It'd be interesting that whenever the show ends or whatever, that Doc does end up dying of tuberculosis, which in turn, maybe he concedes and goes, you know what, Dolls, you do need to be with this person. This is, you know, someone who's going to care for you. I've lived many lives. I've lived this time I've had a child now. I've seen this. I've seen that. I'm okay to go, as long as you're happy, she said. He said that before. No matter what it is, what capacity I can play, as long as you're happy, I'm okay with it. So I think that's going to be a huge...
To counter that argument, just to say right there, I mean, that would be an interesting end for the... I mean, I could totally see this show ending there, but I love what you said right now, because it speaks to this idea of a love triangle. Bobo loved Wyatt Earp. Doc, his love for Wynonna, we get a taste of it, whatever it takes to make you happy. Maybe he felt the same way for the original Wyatt, or maybe that's evolved. But that gives us a taste for Doc's love, its purest love for this Wyatt legend, this Arthurian legend, this Wynonna legend that's just playing itself over and over for that time.
Yeah, so I think those are, that was a really intense relationship we saw between Doc and Bobo, and, they're kind of being upset, the fact that Dolls is like, F you, if Wyatt wants me, he'll come get me. I don't need his little bitch to bring, me any good news or bad news. It's like, it was so, rough to watch and to see what kind of man Bobo or Robert was. I also, real quick, sorry, I'm skipping ahead a little bit just because I like this reference or this thing that she brought up. I like the fact that Wynonna goes, Bobo. He's like, who's Bobo? My name's Robert. And then when she gets freed out of the dream and, she comes back to life and they go, what happened? Who rang the bell? And she goes, it was Robert. She didn't call him Bobo. She didn't say Bobo saved me. She said Robert saved me, because I really like the fact that she considered him in that moment a man and a different person. And she now understands why he is who he is. She's upset. She takes pity on Robert because he didn't ask to be a revenant, and so I find that fascinating. Also, shout out to Willa, because Constance Clutie, he says, I'll go to hell. And she's like, what? He's like, you have nothing I want. And she goes, not yet, or you will, and that was Willa. She kidnapped Willa, and that's why she was in the cult and things like that, and he couldn't find her because he finally fell in love with somebody. And I think Willa, being an Earp, which is interesting as well, touched his heart, his good side. Right now he's kind of surrounded. He wanted to save.
Well, maybe he has a thing for all Earps, right? Even if Waverly's a half sister.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. Like, the fact of the matter is, he is destined to love Earps, whether he wants to or not. He died loving an Earp. He's coming back and he loved an Earp. He is protecting a baby Earp. He is, was saved by an Earp. Like, his life is really just completely woven into the fabric of everything, whether he likes it or not.
I think this character, Bobo, in this episode just became the most fascinating character on the show.
Oh, he was fascinating in season 1. Absolutely.
They should bring him back as a full-time cast member in season 3.
Well, I think he will be, because of a lot of the paternity and all this backstory. I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon.
And you brought up a theory. I'm going to let you talk about it, but I'll prompt you on it. The theory about Willa and her coming back.
Oh, yeah. Because right now we've all been saying that, and even in an article they talked about how this one episode or whatever kind of was very reminiscent of Buffy, where Buffy dies and then the Slayer power goes to the next person, which was Faith. And then Faith shows up. She's like, I'm the Slayer. She's like, excuse me, bitch. I'm still alive. I'm the Slayer. So you had 2 Slayers with different personalities slaying together. Well, exactly. Slay, lady, slay. And so now we have... It's stupid, yeah. Now we have Wynonna, who's died for 77 seconds. And she's like, well, I've only died for this long. It shouldn't have been that bad. The whole point of the curse, you have to be 27. You have to be an Earp. So even if Waverly was an Earp, she's not going to be able to be the heir because she ain't 27. The baby ain't going to be there because it ain't 27. The only living Earp who is 27 after she dies and come back is her. So Wynonna's the heir. Okay.
She got it back.
She got it back. It's because there was no one else around. Emily has confirmed, and we can say here, Bobo is the only revenant that will return after she died. Normally, if an heir dies, all the revenants show back up. But this time, it's just going to be Bobo. Most likely because he was killed outside the River Triangle. Now, as far as... Willa. My theory is that Willa is going to come back. Because Juan Carlos says by sundown, the Earp sisters will reunite or be together again or whatever the hell. Well, she wasn't hanging out with Waverly. She wasn't figuring out her life. And Waverly at this moment isn't an Earp. So he wasn't talking about her. He was probably talking about Willa. Wherever Willa went, she probably doesn't have the black goo in her anymore. They probably got killed or banished or whatever the hell. And yeah, I think that now there's going to be 2 heirs that are able. Because when Willa was around, the power went away from Wynonna and it left her. And then when she became evil, Wynonna got it back. So I think this might be the first time that the curse is kind of different because now there's 2 heirs. Also, something that's fascinating, I saw, what is it, a poster that said second curse worse than the first or something like that. So I think that they're going to defeat the overall first curse of all the Revenants, but then I have a big feeling that Clutie's going to come back, fuck up a bunch of stuff, and they're going to need the 2 heirs. You know, they have 1 peacemaker, but 2 heirs. It's going to be kind of interesting.
I feel like absolutely they're foreshadowing the return of Clutie. And I think that when I heard about the 2 curses, it really, really reminded me of like Once Upon a Time.
Oh, that show. Womp womp.
That shit show. But no, it really did because, you know, the whole idea is a curse and then they recurse and it comes back and forth. So it kind of brought me there, but I know it won't be handled nearly in any way that way. You can never tell the same story twice.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I thought that this episode it felt like 2 episodes in one.
I think this is the first time in the show that I felt like, oh, I wish there was 2 separate episodes. Like I wanted more time because she's pretty good at like packing a bunch of storylines in together and making it seem very coherent and flowing. This is the first time where I was like, Also, once again, I watch all the reactions. I watch all the stuff on Twitter and the different videos about it, and all across the board, there were very few people who got it the first time they watched it. This was a multiple watch episode where you needed to watch it a few times to really get everything, which is not really good and it's not really bad. Like, obviously, I don't care watching it a bunch of times. I love the show. But some people just want to be able to see it once and go, oh, okay, I get it. That was deep, but I get it. You know, so I think if it would have stretched out into 2 episodes, we would have had that feeling of more time to really compress and understand. I wanted to also give a shout out to the cinematographer / also give like a boo to the cinematographer. So there were some great moments, some great shots. I loved when they come out and she comes out on the out of the bar and you see like the town. I thought that was cool, and you know, the forest and the chapel, zooming in on the chapel. I thought all that was beautiful. I don't like, and don't get me wrong, because I love this person. I worked for him, but the cinematographer was J.J. Abrams it up with his solar flares and his crazy, like, I call it Vaseline on the camera look. Jen and I kind of talked about how the Sandman episode and this felt very reminiscent of each other, and that's kind of not good because we're not in a dream. It was a vision quest, you know.
Still kind of a dream, yeah.
Yeah, well, as I told Jen, you know, Xena, they used to do vision quests all the time, and it almost looked like it was like a fishbowl. Like she was in a fishbowl looking at everything, and everything seemed a lot more rounded edges, just really hypersensitive and very rounded. And you know, wow, this must be some kind of dream and kind of thing, or a dream quest, or some kind of otherworldly thing. When it was a dream, it's just a little bit more smoky and a little bit more realistic. Hence why when they were in the dream scene, they were like, the whole town, it just looked normal, but it still had like a foggy kind of dust feel to it, you know? So yeah, I wanted something different for this, a little bit more discombobulated, just a little bit more jarring of, holy crap, I'm in a scene, you know? We got that a little bit in the bar, but not really.
I had 2 things to say about this. I felt like we talked about dividing the episode into 2. I think that would have helped to put some space between the dream episode with Sandman and the vision quest. I felt like I needed 1 more episode between those 2, just to kind of like spread it out. We're going into these places of immediate rest, and we're going into these places of dreams and, symbolism. But we're doing it twice in a season of 13 episodes, so it does feel
12
closer.
12 episodes.
12, I'm sorry. The other thing I felt that I could have used more is, one of the things I think you could have really used to distinguish this episode was they go back in time to the time of Wyatt Earp, gunslinging Western. And I felt like I could have Westerned it up even more so. Like, just the dialogue, to me, the dialogue seemed a little too modern. And I felt like you don't have to make it superly over the top Southern accents, but you could have used more period language and, calling people bitches and traitors. That wasn't of the period. Just go period. Go hard. Make it period as fuck. And actually, I think what would have really solidified that was maybe to have added some original music to it. Maybe have a bar matron singing a Western song when she walks in. Give it this feel. And to kind of speak to Lost Girl a little bit, there was an episode, I just watched it, where they go to France and Lauren Lewis sings like this French song, and it really kind of puts you in a time and in a place, and they go back in time for that episode. So I feel like maybe with the music, with the language, definitely they went all out for the costuming. I really enjoyed the costuming. I thought it was lovely. It was beautiful. But those little elements, just if you're going back in time, you're going to the time of Wyatt Earp, go hard with it. Don't worry about modern. Just go Western.
Yeah, I think the only person that really should have been modern is Wynonna. It's like, I'm gonna follow the blonde, like, so that there was a disconnect.
Yes,
So we
I
all
agree
felt
with you.
like we weren't in purgatory 2017, but, in the 18 or whatever, 19 or whatever in there, this aired, But Doc, I did appreciate Tim Rizen's portrayal of old school Doc. Because Doc is more modern.
I
He's
really
super
enjoyed
hipster,
that. You could tell
and the
it,
fact
yeah.
that he is more angry and he just had a different sensibility about himself, I liked. Obviously, Bobo was a little bit more meek and things like that, and now he's like a badass. But I think that, that could have happened. The only reason why I know people got confused about who the lady was is because it was a different actress for Constance Clooney. I kind of still wish they would have had the original actress. I don't know what happened with her schedule that she wasn't able to reprise that role, because Doc looks the same, Bilbo looks the same. I would have still understood if Constance looked the same. I don't think you needed a younger actress to play Constance, because literally she's the only one that changed. So we were like, who the hell is she? And then we were like, oh, okay, it's Constance.
We did do that, and when you go back in time, you're trying to place things, you're trying to understand things.
Yeah.
That was one of the things I could have used, was the original actress to help me transfer back into that period.
Yeah, not that the actress we had wasn't good. She was totally fine. She played the part exactly how that character really is, very ruthless, and especially when she's younger, she's even more ruthless. So Mazel tov. But like, I could have done. What up?
If I could recast that part entirely, I would have not killed Rachel Scarston in the first episode and made her Constance Clooney the whole season, all episodes.
You just want Rachel back in the show.
I do, I really do.
But so as far as this episode is concerned, I actually really did like it, and I can't wait to see the fallout for Waverly. I can't wait to see the fallout of Wynonna dying and coming back. I can't wait to see the fallout between Doc and when he kind of learns that she went back in time and saw him, and like all of that is going to be so sick. I cannot wait to see more Bobo and more Waverly and Bobo. Oh, those relationships are going to crush my soul. I can just feel whatever Emily has planned for the season finale is going to wreck us for a year. Like, we are going to be so effed until it comes back for season 3. So I cannot wait.
I think my excitement level I really liked the last episode. I really, really liked the baby daddy episode. I love this whole baby daddy arc, and I think she's just so smart. The showrunners are so smart for working with the pregnancy and telling a really great pregnancy storyline. This is probably one of the best I've seen. Besides Xena, because I loved all of her pregnancy storylines.
Oh, yeah. Xena has some great pregnancy stories. Don't get it twisted, guys. Wynonna's not the first good pregnancy arc ever done. It was Xena, full out.
She did like twice.
And I think they had the same coat.
I enjoy that coat looks like it was borrowed off of
No, I'm
the Lost Girl set. I mean, no, the Orphan Black set.
Yeah. Also,
sister.
Helena. Also,
Helena's jacket.
I see somebody wrote this and it made me laugh, and I was like, I'm gonna bring that up. They were like, do you think that Bobo seeing Wynonna in the past influenced his fashion sense in the future? Because now he's wearing the same coat that Wynonna was wearing when he first met her. I think that'd be hilarious.
I think that the hell, to answer that question, the hell is probably a lot like that movie that came out, Mad Max.
Oh my god.
You know the Will
Yeah,
Trace
no,
they're
yeah.
in.
That's actually
I
really
think
funny.
he looks like that. So when they go to hell, that's probably the world they go into.
Nonetheless, guys, what'd you think? We're gonna wrap this up. I was in love with it. I can't wait to see next week. I'm like thirsty for next week. Like I'm thirsty AF for next week. I cannot wait. How are you feeling about it?
Get this lady a straw.
Kid.
She's thirsty.
I feel like I've been on those salt flats for too long. I'm thirsty. Thirsty for more Wynonna Earp.
Stupid.
So guys, make sure to hit us up. Let's talk about it. Like, what did you think? What was confusing about this episode for you? Because I know a few people were like, what's going on? What was confusing for you? Oh, sorry. Before we finish this, to clear up some things, Bobo is not Waverly's dad. He is Waverly's guardian angel. He knows her name because of Wynonna, and I think it's a full circle thing where in the beginning, where we talked about how does Wynonna not remember saving Waverly, I think that she doesn't remember because she didn't, but because she told Bobo to save Waverly, or Waverly's the angel, he ends up saving her in the future. So inadvertently, Wynonna did save Waverly, but not actually her there. It's a whole thing, so there's that. But yeah, just know.
Circle of life.
Also, the Revenants coming back. There's only gonna be Bobo because he, got shot outside the triangle. So there's gonna be no other Revenants showing up. Emily has confirmed that, and yeah, we're gonna find out about the death. But that was just like two things that I knew that people had questions about. Guys, comment. Let's talk. Our Twitter handle is whatabout_dat.
Oh my gosh, you guys, we just got some new artwork. You should check it out. We look super snazzy.
Yeah, we're trying to do something all classy like, you know what I'm saying?
Class it up.
Class it up. So make sure you guys hang over there. Next Friday, I'm hoping to be live tweeting again. I try to do that every week with the cast and everybody because it's just so much fun. So make sure you guys check us out there. We also post some stuff about Supergirl ever so often. And yes, because all the controversy and everything like that.
We have a lot of comments on our Supergirl
Oh yeah, I know.
thread.
It's still rough.
But Adair and I think we might have a solution for that. And you should look forward to the future because we might have a solution.
We
for
might have a just to
season
get
2.
our aggressions and
our own recap.
yeah.
that
We might have our
have
own
cooking.
We might have a recap video for everybody. So anyways,
Look forward to yeah.
so yeah, we'll look out for that. Make sure to hit us up on our iTunes and our SoundCloud.
And yeah, that's
Yeah.
on our Twitter.
And look
iTunes, SoundCloud, Twitter.
for the moment, guys, and
We're also on Podbean. Did you put us there? I didn't put us there. We're on Podbean though.
what?
Somebody put us on Podbean. I don't even know.
The hell's
We
Podbean?
really are. I thought you did that.
No.
Oh. Now we know.
Well, we're
You can listen
apparently
to us
on
on
Podbean.
Podbean.
Okay.
You've been added.
I'll look
Yeah, I
that
thought
up.
that was you.
Not at all.
I was like, oh, Adair, that's very industrious. You've been working on that.
Nope,
It's like,
sure
no, we're
haven't.
not.
Nope,
Nope,
I'm
nope.
not at all. I'm like Clooney, just bam, neat trick. Like,
Get you on Podbean.
all right, guys, have a great time. We'll see you later. Bye.